So I had to recently get an MRI done. Yes, it is as uncomfortable as it sounds. But what really made it worse isn't the actual procedure or the sounds of the machine, but it was my own people-pleasing tendencies. I'm sure you've been there. You try so hard to make others feel comfortable, but in the process, make it so much more harder for yourself. Putting others' comfort first over yours can actually backfire. So I go to this massive hospital to get this MRI. It is the first time I've done something like this because I do not know what to expect. Therefore, I'm very nervous. Checked in, did my part, and I was led into this holding area where I was patiently or trying to be patient. Shortly after in comes this nurse. He introduces himself. He has some papers in his hands. He's naming, he asks me my name, date of birth, why I'm here. In these questions about 2 to 3 times, he asks me, do you have claustrophobia? No, I don't have claustrophobia. He gives me a little bit of background on what to expect from this procedure, what I have to do, what kind of directions I have to follow. To me, right off the bat, he came off very just warm and pleasant. His temperament and personality is actually perfect for the job that he was working in. You know, it's a pretty daunting procedure. A lot of people that are coming in might be in pain, they're probably claustrophobic, and so his job is really to make sure the person feels comfortable, especially for a first-timer like me. Count him to be definitely on the chattier side. He told me about himself and that he loved his job, which is very evident, and I find that our norm this day and age is to grind at work, and usually that work is not something that you enjoy. To witness this and him saying it a few times, how much he loves his job and how much he's passionate about this job, was very refreshing for me. Definitely made sure I was comfortable and talking about him, and then he happens to mention that he is from Afghanistan and that he listens to this Afghan music. It kind of blew my mind where Afghan music was a thing. Like, of course it is a thing. If it's another country and they have their own language, you best believe they have their own music. But in mine, because it wasn't even in my network of things to think about or I have thought about before. In fact, he was the first person IRL that I've met that's from Afghanistan. He asks me point blank,
what kind of music do you listen to?
And I was caught off guard by that question because I don't know how this was related to this procedure. He didn't provide any other context. He just asks me, and I'm just like, that's a loaded question. If it's someone like me that has a pretty big, curious music enthusiast, I have a very wide listening palette.
I'm a sucker for a song with good lyrics, but sometimes I'm feeling rock, sometimes I'm feeling indie. Also listen to music in languages I don't understand, but I just like hearing the languages.
So I gave this vague answer, which basically was a non-answer.
You know, it kind of depends on what mood I'm in.
He's like, you know, the machine is gonna make a little bit of noise, and so I provide headphones for all of you so you can listen to music while you're listening to prompts. All right, got it. This is followed by a moment where everything got out of hand. A blink of an eye where I couldn't even process to allow myself to give thought of what he just said. I just blurted it out. Why don't you put on the music that you listen to? So the follow-up is the highest of high for a people pleaser. Face lights up. He's excited. He's like, oh, that's great. I'm excited. You can listen to music from my country. In that moment, here is the next phase of a people pleaser, and this lasts much longer. It is doom because my gut in that moment drops. I did something wrong, and I knew I gave the wrong answer. I wish I could just pull those words back up. His face or how excited he was was out of sync of how my gut was feeling. My gut was like,
no, Isha.
This is not the right place for you to listen to a new genre of music. And then hits panic because I'm just, crap, what do I say? How do I backpedal? How? Anything like, I didn't want to come off like an insensitive jerk. No thanks, I don't want to listen to music from your country. By that time, he had already moved on to the next step of direction, changing into my hospital robe, and then he pointed me to that weird looking locker to put my belongings in, but like not the ones that you have at school or at gym, one of those clickety ones where you have the code and then you stick your things in and then you have your own code. And then I gotta get out of the hall, take left, right, left, meet this one nurse. She's gonna stick a needle up my arm so that they could inject the contrast dye for the MRI procedure, and then eventually find him at the radiology at the end of this swing. Full on processing. At one hand, I'm listening to what he's saying and all the directions that I have to follow. At the same time, I'm coming up with, boy, can I come up with something where I could change my mind? Can I say something? And in hindsight, it would have been completely okay. You know what? I changed my mind about the music. I'd rather listen to something that I'm familiar with.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
But I was just way too panicked and scatterbrained. I accepted my fate. It leaves me to it, getting back into my control mode. you know what, the music will be calm, it'll be fine. New music that I've listened to for the first time in my life, and that will be fun. You know how in the gym when you listen to music, whether it be via your headphones or, you know, speakers, the music is blasting, when you're in the thick of exercise, you're not really listening to the music. You know what's there in the background, but you're more focused on the exercise. That's exactly how it's gonna be. I've convinced myself enough, and I'm moving on, and then I'm following these directions. You know, I change into my hospital robe, I stick my things in that weird locker, I head down to this other nurse, he sticks a needle up my arm, I find him at this radiology at the end of this wing. And now it's a pretty massive room. It wasn't as well lit as all the other rooms that I walked by and was in. There were these glass windows and I could see several humongous white machines, computers lined up, and there were some nurses that their backs were facing me where they're doing their work. And then here he was expecting me, ready to go. So he leads me into one of these rooms. Enter this room. It's quite big, but what's bigger is this MRI machine. It is white, huge circular thing that's like connected and has all these wires. The actual room, you've walked to Antarctica. It is cold. There's this extension plate thing outside of this whole machine thing, and on this extension is a plate. I'm asked to lie down on that plate. First thing that he does is he covers me up with warm blanket because this procedure lasts 45 minutes to an hour. Hooks me up, and then on my one hand he gives me this one button, which basically was like eject button, where if I feel uncomfortable or something like that, I could just press that button that'll automatically like emergency stop the whole thing. I'm gonna be right outside the room, hear you just fine, and I'm gonna be conducting the procedure there. And so the last thing he does before he leaves this room, with very cold room with me in the machine, he gives me earplugs. I completely forgot about this whole music thing because I'm trying to process this very foreign environment right now. And so I stick the earplugs in, pulls these chunky headphones out with like a wire sticking out somewhere, like one of those circular wire things. So I wear that, and then he kind of gives me the thumbs up, and then he's out of there, lying there, all covered up. It's just me in this cold Antarctic room. This plate starts to roll automatically, or I'm sure he's conducting the procedure, so I'm rolling into this machine. My feet go in first. The ceiling of that machine is circular as my head goes in, and not even 5 inches from my face. And I'm completely submerged into that machine, and all I see is ceiling. My goodness, if you want to experience what it is like to be in a coffin, get an MRI done. That's exactly what it feels like. This one little hole right at the top of my head, and I believe that must be a camera or something. I'm pretty sure that they could see people that are in the machine. Full on, just I'm panicking because it's pretty stuffy in there. While I'm getting adjusted to this, the plate that I'm lying on is sort of nests me. It's almost circular like this. That starts warming it up. Very different temperatures that I'm feeling. It's cold on one hand, but the whole base of it is warm. The machine was warming up and ready to go. The machine starts to have at it. It is obnoxiously loud and it is scary. And you know, I actually have a fight to pick with these healthcare machine makers. Why in the world would you think the beeps that you're making are in any which way helpful to all these people that are getting an MRI done? A lot of them have claustrophobia. The idea is meant to, you know, have something calming, make pleasant beeps. Anywho, it was loud through the 2 layers of stuffing of ears I had in me. Then comes the moment of truth. There's music that starts playing. I have never heard before. First time ears are hearing what Afghani language sounds like. I want to preface this by saying, I don't mean to offend or reject Afghan music. There's a male that starts singing, and then slowly all these different instruments together start playing. There's drums and kinds of drums, and there's a flute, and there's a lot going on in instruments. Then the female voice comes in and they sing together, and then there's some kind of chorus in the background and they all sing together. I have never seen any of these videos, and I wasn't seeing it at that point. During that MRI, songs almost felt like they were singing and dancing together in some kind of a happy occasion. So upbeat, and it was so lively, and it was the first time my brain was listening to this language. It was just all over the place, and then I have like these machines to deal with, trying to process this all, and there's sort of a wave of just angst and regret over, this is not the right music choice. Why can't I speak up? Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I say something? Honestly, in that moment, even American lively, upbeat music wouldn't have worked. I needed some piano or some violin. I needed some cello. I needed some Ludovico Einaudi in that moment. I needed to calm down, but that music was not doing it. While my brain is processing the sounds and the tones and the intonations and the instrument and this obnoxiously loud machine, I'm startled by this prompt.
Take a deep breath in.
I hear, and so I'm like, and then it's like,
Hold your breath in.
so I'm holding my breath. And then there's silence. Okay, for how long?
Resume breathing. And
Resume breathing. These are the prompts that I had to follow. But problem was, I couldn't predict when the next prompt was coming. Sometimes the holding of breath would be 5 seconds. Sometimes it would be 25 seconds. Whole prediction just went right off the window. I'm trying my best to figure it out. And the whole point of this machine, it takes pictures of my organs. I had to be still. I had to follow these prompts, this breathwork prompts. Even my breathing, the movements have to be very gradual and smooth. Every minute felt like an eternity. At the same time, loud humming and beeping. And there's foreign music that I'm listening to, which isn't, all of this is not helping me calm my nerves. I was trying my level best. It's been a long time since I put as much focus in something as I had while being in that coffin MRI machine. You know, he was communicating with me via the intercom, and I had a handful of opportunities while being in that procedure to ask him to change or to ask him to stop.
I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Didn't want to offend the guy. I don't want to listen to this music anymore, but I didn't want to do that. And so I kind of raved through as much as I can. This went on for 1 hour, and finally prompt stops. The humming slowly stops, and then towards the end, the music stopped. The procedure was done. On that plate, coming out of that machine, and I'm just thinking to myself, what the just happened for the past hour? I was so emotionally and mentally drained, even though I was with my breath technically the whole time. And he comes back in the room, he starts to unhook, pulls up the pretty heavy pad that was on my abdomen, and I'm just ready to be out and be at home. Before I exit that MRI room,
it's like, hey, what'd you think of the music?
I could have easily people pleased too in that moment and given a white lie, but I chose not to, and I think I just gave him half truth. You know, honestly, I didn't pay as much attention towards the end. Breathing prompts were pretty fast and I had to focus on them. And he's like, yeah, oh, that's totally understandable. I thanked him, exposing me to the music that he listens to, and I left. I went back to the holding area. I checked out while I was checking out my drive home from the hospital. I was so angry at myself. I had nobody to blame but me. I couldn't believe what I had put myself through additionally on the audacity I had to people please. It kind of punched a hole through this personal threshold of mine. The fact that I chose to people please someone else over something that I actually needed. We often put others' comfort over our own just to avoid a conflict or to avoid a feeling of we're asking too much. On the other hand, when we ignore our own needs, we only make it much harder for us in the long run. And it's not about being difficult. It is about being true to yourself and advocating for your own well-being. Although in that moment, I thought that I was being kind by not asking for something different, I made the whole experience, because of it, so much more uncomfortable and unnecessary suffering just for myself. And here's the truth. We all have the right to ask for what we need, even though it is uncomfortable at first. It isn't selfishness. It's about self-respecting that day onwards, the day that I stopped people-pleasing, this resolute in mind. I knew that things were gonna change. I was not the same person after that experience.
Emotional damage.
It took a first-time MRI experience, signing up for music that I shouldn't have in the first place. I am hawk when it comes to my patterns, my tendencies. I exactly know what moments or what situations can I slip all in this people-pleasing pickle. And there are two things that I've learned. There will be so much resistance from your body in the moments where you usually just in the past people please and say yes, but you actually say no. That resistance is so loud and pronounced, but you have to sit with that discomfort. And I promise you, over time, that resistance from yourself and your body slowly is just gonna melt away. Number two, if you find yourself in a people-pleasing pickle and you have to pedal yourself or backtrack out, you will certainly, I know I have, come up with 1 to 2 ready to go backup sentences that you can use. For me, it looks like, hey, I looked at this, I actually overbooked myself, so instead why don't we da 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 da. Now that I think of it a little bit more, I change my mind. I rather do da 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 da. This is going to require require some amount of candor on your end, which is hard enough anyway. But if the person that you're speaking with is reasonably level-headed, which I believe most humans are, they are going to understand. If they don't, and it would upset them, be okay with that feeling of discomfort and lack of pleasing also. If that's okay, you're choosing your peace first. This is years of habit that you're trying to unlearn and then rewire your brain differently. That's gonna take time. You are allowed to revisit a decision. It's okay to backtrack. You are a human being. Absolutely nothing is set in stone. The only thing that's set in stone is one day we're all gonna be dead. It's okay to revisit and be like, hey, you know what? I changed my mind. Instead, this is what I'd rather do. This is how you're going to start to develop self-loyalty. So have self-compassion, have kindness for yourself. And the most unexpected thing that has come out of choosing my peace first, my own glass is full. I am not burnt out and I'm not crashed out because of this being in this people-pleasing suffering land. I'm able to show up for people more than I ever have before. I'm more present, take more of whatever that they need me to be, and provide and show up in a way, in a much sustainable, in a much loving, in a much healthier way. And all the while I'm doing this respecting my own needs and being okay with that. If anything, this could be a gentle push for you to start working on this process. If you also have one of these crazy stories, thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you in the next one.